Hi, thanks for watching my video. You know, I worked with international students for since 1988, and people from all over the world, every religious background, cultural background, and many times they ask me, they say, Bill, what is the short message of the Bible? What is it really all about? It's a big book. I'm going to tell you what that answer is, how I answer that question. If we let this hand represent God and let my four fingers and a thumb represent features of God. God has a mind, He has emotions, He has a will, He communicates with words, and He creates. And the Bible says that God made man in His image. Now, if we put this hand up to a mirror, we would see this as a reflection, and if we pulled the hands away, this would still be the reflection of this. Well, I'm going to let this hand represent human beings being made in God's image. And so the 5 features that God has in Himself, He gave to human beings. We have a mind, emotions, a will. We can communicate with words, and we can create, although not the same way that God does. Now, God made man in His image because He wanted to have a relationship with these creatures that were made in His image. And He had this thing going really, really well. And this is how we see the Bible story starting out in the first 2 chapters. Now, God gave man a will. It was man's responsibility to maintain this thing by his trust. And so what happened was the trust was broken, and mankind decided to do what they wanted to do. They disobeyed God, and in essence they said, God, we can do better on our own. So they moved away from God, who is the source of their life. And so when anybody moves away from the source of life, that brings death to them. And so they died spiritually, ultimately they died physically. And man soon realized that this death thing was operating in their lives, and it also included things like guilt and shame and fear, things that they had never before experienced when they had fellowship with God. And so all of those negative things, pain, suffering, argument, wars, fighting, all these things are represented in the fact that man is no longer in relationship with God, and that is what people are looking for. And so since man cannot do anything to extend his physical life significantly, it's kind of foolish to think that they could extend their lives, their spiritual lives, significantly, and they can't. They really can't. It's just a picture that death is something that we cannot undo on our own. And so that leaves only God as the only person who can do anything about it. And what He did was He sent Jesus down to earth. He was born and lived lived a perfect life, fulfilled the will of God, something that we could not do on our own. And then Jesus Himself went to voluntarily choose to go to the place of suffering, pain, of sin. He went to the place of guilt, shame, and fear, and He died on that cross to pay the death penalty that we owed God for our separation and our disobedience. And so when Jesus died at His weakest moment, He took all those things on Himself, died, paid for those things. On the cross, just before He died, He said, it is finished. The payment was complete. And so God was happy with Him. The victory was earned by Jesus. And so God raised Him from the dead and showed Him to His disciples and said, listen, if you trust me, I'm the one who can bring you back to the Father. That was His message. And He returned to heaven to wait for our choice. God will always honor the choice that we make. And He wants us to trust His Son for that reunion with God. That is something that I did a long, long time ago. I'm awfully glad I did. I call this little illustration, the gospel is in your hands. I hope it's in your heart. I hope you would trust Christ for your salvation. And I hope that the gospel goes into your hands too, because it is something that the world is looking for. Thanks for watching, and God bless.